Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for the multi-photo layout YouTube hop. This is the layout that I'm sharing, but I'm going to start with a bit of a photo tutorial. So I have created a template for Photoshop, and it has 4 grids. So what you're going to do is you can drag your photo over to the template, and then you want to make sure that that particular photo is on top of the square, or in this case rectangle, that you want to use. And then what you're going to do is you're going to right click and click on create clipping mask, and that will link that photo to that layer on the layer below in the layers palette. And each one you're going to drop the photo onto the rectangle, and then again create clipping mask. And then once you've created clipping mask, you can adjust that photo size. So in the next photo, I am going to click on the little square on the left hand corner there, making sure that in my top left palette I say show transformation or show transform something, and then that'll give me the option to adjust the size of the photo. And so in this first photo on the bottom left there, I am going to reduce the size of the whole photo by, actually I tried linking it in the wrong spot. It was actually the bottom left. Yep. I thought I had arranged it so that you went from top left to top right to bottom left, but actually I went as you would read it. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm going to change the percentage size altogether so that I can get that photo to fit in the rectangle better. And the same thing here. So I've clicked it. I'm going to link the layer. See how I dragged it down? And then I'm going to link the layer, and you see how her head's cut off and you can't see as much of the cat. So you can shift it around in there and it automatically clips that photo for you. Then when you've got everything where you want it to be, you're going to hit you're going to go up to your layers tab, go to the bottom of the drop box, and you can either do merge layers or flatten image. I use flatten image, and then this is 5 by 7, so you can print it 5 by 7. So if you go to the link in the description box down below, I have that as a free download for you to say thank you for stopping in and hopping today. The great thing about this is that I could have scrapped this one of 2 ways. I could either have left it as a photo collage. I could have even have shrunk it and printed in a 6 by 4. I would have had more white border and then just trimmed off the edges, or I could cut them apart, which is what I am going to actually end up doing. I had actually thought that I was going to use it as a photo collage. So here you can see I'm going to send it to the printer, and I'm going to print. What I had printed previously was on letter size paper. I was doing a large size photo, but I will switch this and then print. So there is the printed version of that. And now I'm going to create the layout. So I have 4 photos, as you can see. You could consider it really, if you left it as a collage, one 5 by 7 photo, but really made up of 4 photos. So what I've done here is I am creating with the Pink Paisley 5th and Monaco collection, and I've ripped that. I've cut out a word that's going to be part of the title, and then I want to back that before I put that on the black cardstock there. And I purposely want that ripped edge in between, and I could have just left the black backing behind, but I liked the circles, gave it a little bit, the dots gave it a little bit of variety there. So I'm going to stick that up to the top. That is not going to be the full title. I knew that I wanted other words, but you could also have done that. So I need to talk a little bit about that, why that piece of pattern paper is so wrinkly. So I used, from Tuesday Morning, they have, I think it's American Crafts, has a generic digital die cutting mat, and that's what I used. It is super, super sticky. I cannot tell you how many times I have cut on that mat, and you can see how to get it off. It was so adhered to the mat. It didn't rip it, but it definitely, you can't pull it off easily without leaving some texture and curling the paper. So this is where I decide I didn't leave myself enough room between time and that left-hand side of the page to leave this as a photo collage. So easy to get around that. I'm going to cut them apart and just use them as smaller photos. And they're going to go across the page rather than down the page on the left-hand side, which is fine. It changes how the direction that the layout ends up going in, but that's fine because I didn't really have any plans when I set out to do this. When you are creating multi-photo layouts and you're doing it on a single 12 by 12 piece, I find that it's easiest to either use a photo collage like you would use if you used that 5 by 7, either that or to actually shrink your photos down as I have done here. You could absolutely fit more than 2 4 by 6 photos on a page, but I feel that it gets really crowded, especially if you want to use lots of elements. Like these flowers are rather oversized, and if you were to use them even fussy cut, I think the page would be very busy, and I like to have white space where your eye can rest. So in a second, I'm going to fast forward through this because you do not need to see me fussy cut this, but I do want to point out that when you are fussy cutting, if you move your paper, you will get a much cleaner cut. So in a second, I'm going to skip through the rest of that and just show you the completed fussy cut flowers and come back to the rest of the creation of this layout. So there they are finished. I want to do a little bit more green. And so I'm going to get out my manual die cut machine and some wafer thin dies and add a little bit more green to those flowers. I just liked the way that the crispness of the greens breaks up the sort of melding color palette of the pinks and oranges that are there, and these bright greens are going to do that for me. So you see I have a fern on the left and then a few other leafy things on the right hand side. That fern ends up being way too big, but I do really like the it looks more like a fern, less like a fern, but kind of like a fern. I don't know what to call it, but the die that one there that I'm going to cut again, it's smaller and it allows me to fit a little bit more green and different hues onto the layout there. Here we go. And so what I have here for embellishments, I am using a scrap room kit. And so you do not get a lot of the embellishments. There may have been some leafy greens that came with the collection, but I don't have those. And that's why I'm choosing to do this. I did need a shim in order to get the finer detail out of my, to get a clean cut on these particular dies here. So I really like the way that the green pops those flowers off of the pink that I've chosen to use there. And that is actually really going to end up being the main embellishment cluster. I still like to have a trio of things, even if I am using as many photos as I am. And so I am still going to have embellishments scattered throughout the page, but they aren't the traditional clusters that I would typically use where I use 3 of the same thing. So I've got that lace doily that is from Recollections that I'm going to use behind the photo. I like the way that it breaks up the stark contrast between the black and white photo and that black background there. That is unusual for me to use that black background. I am typically a white cardstock kind of gal, but I really do like the way that that black background really pops the colors there. I originally have these photos, you can see they're pretty straight up and down, but I really like when I skewed them a little bit, which is what I'm going to do more towards the end as I really commit to where they're going to go. I knew I wanted to put some journaling on this page. I thought maybe that I might hide it because I really don't have a white pen that I love. And so I thought it might end up being some hidden journaling. Again, when you have a lot of photos, you have to be cognizant of how much you're putting on a page. If you want to fill all of the space, absolutely, that is up to you, and we each have our judgment calls of things that we like. I don't like everything to be full, and so often what solves that problem for me is to put hidden journaling. There's one of two reasons that I'm going to go for hidden journaling. The first is that A, I want white space, and B, if I want privacy. If it's not my story to tell or a story that my children don't want public, then I will put some hidden journaling on there. So there's a glassine bag behind that photo where I have actually put a tag. It just doesn't serve a purpose. It's more of a decorative purpose there. So you can see how the photo on the left-hand side, in order to tie that header, that really big header into the photo, into the rest of the page, I'm going to overlap over the ripped edge. Then the other three photos I am going to tuck behind that ripped edge. I really did want you to see that ripped edge, but that's sort of a design principle that I have applied in order for continuity of that layout. So I got the stickers as part of the add-on to my scrap room kit here, and I really wanted to use Love You Always because these two have a very cute relationship, my daughter and the cat. And so I wanted to incorporate that into the layout. It kind of becomes a subtitle for that layout there. And I wanted that to not feel like it was free floating, which is why I liked that always as a banner, because it kind of gives it a bit of a shelf to have those words sit on. So you're going to see that tag there, and it's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and then I'm just not going to use it. I really like the concept of that tag poking out of the footer down there, but I don't really have that color anywhere else in the layout, and so it was kind of hard to tie in, and it just felt like this random element sticking out. It's like a sore thumb on the page. But I tried hard to make it work. So what I have here is one of the phrase stickers. It says documented, and I'm going to back that with some black Gina K foam from ThermoWeb. Because I'm using black cardstock, I prefer to use black foam. I could have used the white. There's no reason I couldn't have. It's just it's harder to see that it hides the shadow of the dimension when you're using tone on tone there. I'm going to put a thread ball behind that, just kind of, you see that hot pink thread there, just again for a little bit of texture to add to the layout. I have a lot of texture in that top left with the leaves, and so by putting that thread ball, it kind of ties it in together. I had pulled those letter stickers out earlier, and they really were too big for the word snuggle above time. It would have created a little bit more balance in the title, but I didn't leave myself enough room really. I could have made it work, but again, I would have lost some of that empty space, that white space, which is sort of that quiet space for your eye to rest as you're looking at it. If you have too many elements throughout the page, it just becomes so busy that you don't really know where to focus. So I've got these butterfly stickers, and again, I'm going to use some foam to give some dimension to the page so that the butterflies aren't just flat to the page, but they're kind of flitting across the page. I'm going to have one here, and then I will use another one later on in this layout. What I do is I use my liquid adhesive in the center of the butterfly to put that down, and then the foam underneath the wings on either side. So here is another ripped element. I'm going to use two pieces, and I'm also going to use that black dot that is underneath time to pull that together. So that it creates a little bit of a footer. It kind of grounds the bottom of the page there. I loved this bird, but just sticking him there, it doesn't look like he's sitting on anything, and he needed a perch. So I'm going to use the words real life as a perch for him to sit on, and that way he doesn't feel like he's just this randomly floating bird. I mean, in a way, he could have been sitting on the ripped edge, but yeah, your eye needed that actual element for him to sit on. So there's that second butterfly that I referred to earlier. So just that ripped edge I needed a few more layers down there, and I really liked that green label from Ellie's Studio. It ties in with that darker green in the top left there, but it needed something else, and so I'm just going to put a thin strip of this ripped pattern paper, which then ties the bottom of the layout into the top of the layout there, and that is going to wrap that up. So this is a hop. Be sure to hop over to the next gal's all of the gals blogs, but definitely the next YouTube channel, and that is in the description box down below. And check out how everybody else is using multiple photos in their projects. And I'm going to fight with this tag. See, I really wanted to incorporate that in there for that heavier shot of pink. I'm going to wrap up the layout with some Spiegel Mom Scraps sequins. And you all know, if you follow me already, you already know my trick for doing that. If you don't subscribe to my channel and you're new, thank you for stopping in today. I would love to have you subscribe. Be sure to leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for stopping in today. Enjoy the rest of the hop. Take care.